Welcome back. Before the break, you heard from the New York Times reporter who profiled the challenges that plague New Jersey's halfway houses. Now, many of the halfway houses he profiled are run by a company called Community Education Centers. The Senior Vice President for Clinical Services, Quality Assurance, and Research at that company, Dr. Robert Mackey. He's kind enough to join us now, and Dr. Mackey is a licensed psychologist, clinical alcohol and drug counselor, and he's also served as a law enforcement officer. Dr. Mackey, thank you for a few minutes. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to come on.
Well, as you know, for the better part of a week now, readers of the Times have seen a portrait of a facility that's been eviscerated. Your company has been labeled, among other things here, politically connected, wasting taxpayers' monies, a place where people come and go and talking of the inmates as they please, bedlam running basically and reigning in the night, abuse and even worse happening within its walls. Why should people of New Jersey, after what they've read, have any confidence that, in effect, your firm is capable, let alone to be trusted in running all these inmates?
Well, again, Richard, I think that the true facts speak for themselves. We have a number of agencies and external entities that review our operations or participate in our operations 24 hours a day. And again, the conclusion that those entities come to is vastly different from the conclusions of the Times.
I want you to help reconcile the description of conditions behind the walls of these facilities that we read about versus your perspective on this. Inmates are housed, they write, in barrack-style rooms, not cells. At night, 1 or 2 low-wage workers typically oversee each unit of 170 inmates. Outnumbered and fearful, these workers sometimes refuse to patrol the corridors. Robbery, sexual assault, menacing of the weak in the darkness, the inmates' rooms turn into a free-for-all. Inmates regularly ask to be returned to prison where they feel safer. And that is coming from the workers' self-accounts in addition to former inmates of the facilities. It certainly doesn't paint a picture that you or I would want to spend a night in.
Well, again, I've been in those facilities at all hours, and frankly, if you were to talk to a more representative example of the 850 people I have working here in New Jersey, you would not hear that account. The inmates that we work with that request to go back to prison, I would say 95% of those people are requesting to go back to prison because the expectations, the demands on them for treatment, structure, and accountability far exceeds the experience that they would have in a prison setting. So to say that someone wants to go back to prison to feel safer, it's simply not true.
I want to ask you about a couple people in specific.
Sure.
And what you would say to the family of Derek Harris. Derek Harris, it seems to be for many a case that people hold on to. This was a guy who turned out hadn't paid parking tickets and also hadn't registered his car. He was put into one of your facilities, and again, for low-level criminals here, people without violent backgrounds. And what happened was he was murdered by 3 inmates in one of your facilities for $3. How is it that guys with major rap sheets are being placed with people with obviously not a lot of supervision and creating a real security risk?
You're asking me 2 different questions. One is, what would be my response to the family? I'm sorry for the family. I think that's when you take it to a human, a personal level, there's no accounting for the tragedy and loss.
But at the trial for Mr. Bonilla, who was one of the 3 that was charged and convicted in the murder of Mr. Watkins, an overnight supervisor at Delaney Hall where this happened testified that he knew inmates routinely prowled the halls at night. He also said the security cameras near the room of Harris hadn't worked for over a month. And he also painted a vivid picture here where the inmates were basically running the place, not the other way around. That came out at trial. That wasn't somebody that Dolnick got for a disgruntled ex-employee. That was the picture that was painted there. So I guess my question is, if we went to Delaney Hall now, what is the inmate to actual guard ratio, and how are things significantly different?
He's getting it wrong because he's not asking the right people the right questions. The population, the federal population that you're referring to is an immigration and customs population, low-level offenders classified as level 1 immigration and customs detainees that do not have a history of violence or violent offenses.
I got you, Doctor,
So
but the
if
3
he's
guys who killed
representing to
Watkins
you-
were bad guys with rap sheets. What were they doing in the same place with a guy who didn't
they
pay
weren't-
for his
they weren't
registration
federal.
on his car?
The individuals that you're talking about, that's absolutely true. I don't want to get into all the details of the individual. I understand that his current offenses were of that nature. I can't get into the details of it, but current charges are not always representative of the nature of the folks that are in those facilities.
Okay,
But
fair enough.
Again,
And I want to ask
I'm
you.
talking to the family,
Yes.
very different.
Okay, now one last family question, and that is the case of Vanessa Falcone, who was brave enough to put her name to a story. And nobody really disputes the facts in this particular case. A woman who had falsified prescriptions, scripts, she ends up going to one of your facilities. While there, she was raped,
Correct.
reportedly, for over a 2-week period by the janitor under the employee at your facilities. When a senior guard finally questioned her on her, she told her what happened. She was transferred, and the guard was dismissed. Yet, when asked about it, there was no inquiry by the state prosecutors. And the question is, why? Why, if an inmate escapes, or why, if something like this happens, where is the due diligence or the responsibility on the part of the facility to notify all the law enforcement agencies? And even if you did the right thing, what does that say about the state here not fully prosecuting something that we all would agree is horrific?
Again, Richard, I think the facts as they're presented by Mr. Dolnick are inaccurate. Ms. Falcone didn't report that to a senior staff member. It was actually reported by other residents to staff. Ms. Falcone was confronted about the behavior. The staff member, who was a maintenance person, not a guard, was fired. The case was referred, because Ms. Falcone was on parole, case was referred to parole. The determination was made at that point in her best interest to transfer her out of the facility to another parole facility, and the case was then transferred or referred to the Trenton Police for investigation. So to say that it was not investigated, that it was not responded to, again, is not factual. And this is where Mr. Dolnick has gotten these cases wrong time and time again. The most important point here, I guess, that I would want to make is that these cases are not representative of the quality of care and the nature of services going on in those facilities. It just simply isn't true. Do bad things happen from time to time? Are there fights from time to time? Do drugs get into the facility from time to time? Again, not representative, but yes.
It's no secret that William Palatucci, who's a senior VP at your firm here, has a long relationship with the governor. In fact, they were partners, they were attorneys in the same law firm. In fact, Governor Christie was a lobbyist for your firm. Beyond even the personal relationships and the friendships and where it goes, under the governor, and I know previous governors certainly awarded contracts to you guys, but under the governor, this current governor, you guys got $71 million in state and county funding. And a lot of people right now, including the state legislature, are wondering that if it was someone with a different relationship who hadn't also gotten political contributions to the degree that he has, would there be more scrutiny of your facilities? How do you deal with the fact that the governor and a senior VP of your firm have such a long-standing relationship, and seemingly your place has gotten so many passes over the years?
Well, number one, I think the assertion that the governor was a lobbyist for us is inaccurate. But again, to say that
he was a registered lobbyist, by the way. Whatever it's worth, Doctor, he was a registered lobbyist.
Well, he may be, but he may be, but not on behalf of us. The point is that, yeah, they do have a long-standing relationship. The contracts that we've been awarded in this state over the last 15 or 16 years have gone through a competitive bid process. They've gone through procurement. You know, I would challenge anybody to look at that procurement process and find any wrongdoing in that process. Again, it's an allegation. You can try to connect the dots. The dots simply don't connect in the way that Mr. Dolnick is trying to connect them.
Dr. Mackey, thank you for a few minutes.
Thank you.